to the Hump Day version of Special Blend for this Wednesday, the 24th of January, 2018, show number 713. Good morning. Welcome back to another Wednesday, another middle of the week, another hump day right here in the nation's capital. I'm your host, Tic. I will be here till 9:30. Got a pretty full show for the next 2.5 hours. After 8 o'clock, Michel Weatherall will be in the studio. He won the latest Faces Award for Best Author. He's a poet, he's a publisher, he's a printer, and he's an imagination weaver. We'll be here on the Hump Day version of Special Blend. My next guest is Michel Weatherall. He's an author, poet, publisher, printer, and my favorite, imagination weaver. Good morning, Michel.
Good morning.
For some reason, I always thought it was Michael.
I get that a lot. You can't get a more French first name and English last name with Weatherall.
The last time you were here, I didn't note it. I thought I noted it, but I didn't. Oh, well. I thought you were here last year, but it was more like end of 2015.
It was something like that.
It was time ago.
It was July. That's all I remember.
So what have you been doing since then?
I've been busy.
I know. I see lots of stuff.
Crazy, go.
Yeah.
I have, between that time and now, put out another book called The Refuse Chronicles. It's the fourth and final in the Symbiote series. That was released in September of last year. I've had an article appear in Thomas J. Ord's, he's an American theologian. That was released in August of last year. I'm working a new novel, and then I've been up nominated for a Faces of Ottawa Award for Best Male Author.
Who are you up against? Any other authors I'd know?
I don't recognize a lot of the names, to be honest with you.
It's all about faces. I don't know where we should start. We certainly, I think you were certainly working on the Symbiote. What is that about?
The Symbiote, right now it's a 4-book series.
Is there going to be more?
There will not. The latest one is finished, and it's finished. I've actually had some beta readers, when they went through it, were a little bit shocked at the ending of it, because what I wanted to avoid was, I didn't want to become a one-trick pony, because you can keep putting out more and more stories in the same universe, right? Just endlessly put them out, and I figured it's time to wrap it up, make it done. It's a finite story, and that's it. Move on to something new.
So when you wrote the first one, did you know there was going to be 3 others?
When I wrote the first one, it was originally designed as a trilogy, 1, 2, and 3. The first book is The Symbiote, the second one is The Hunt, Symbiosis, and the third book is called Necropolis. It was initially designed to be a trilogy. Because the story arc is so large, there's a lot of secondary and incidental characters that we never really find out what happened to them. Within the last 2 years, I guess, I got a lot of emails from fans. They all have their favorite secondary, what happened to so-and-so. And it came up with the idea of doing the Refuse Chronicles, which literally is the fallout or the human debris of the event in Necropolis. And we revisit all these secondary characters and find out what happened to them. And the Refuse Chronicles they're vignettes. They're 19 short stories or novelettes. Most of them are each freestanding. You can almost read them in any order you want, but they do all tie together to tell a larger story, and they wrap up the entire series.
Did you deal with every character?
Not everyone, but most of them. Yeah, the main ones I'd have, yeah.
Do you have a giant wall with Post-it notes or timelines?
Kind of.
Or
I have stuff
lines?
mapped out on paper and that. I'm more visual than I am words-orientated, and I do.
Because it would seem to almost be necessary. Like, you could have a memory, you could have your notes, but it'd be good to have a visual representation.
It would. Well, that's one of the reasons why, especially in this last one, I had about 4 different beta readers go through it for consistency, because it jumps between the years 1999 and 2005, 2019. And the stories toggle back and forth, and it becomes very time sensitive.
Sounds science fiction, dystopian in some nature.
It is dystopian in a way. The fact that the story towards the end takes place in the year 2019 is not futuristic. It's just the way the chronologically the story opens itself up. There is a bit of sci-fi. I mean, I wanted to play in one of the stories in it that I'm really tickled about is one of the first ones is called The Facility, and it is sci-fi, clearly in the realm of sci-fi. It's this facility in the middle of Antarctica, and they're doing experimentations into artificial intelligence, and it's in a center of a 50-mile dead zone. No Wi-Fi, no communications, no satellite uplinks, and it's not clear whether the facility was built in the middle of this zone or if this zone was generated by the facility. But what they're concerned of is if they do succeed in generating artificial intelligence, if it gets out, they're frightened of it uploading, and once it gets into the internet, there's no stopping it. But the angle I wanted to take with it was a very different one, because more often in literature and in movies, when you get sentient machines, we see things like Terminator, we see things like The Matrix. It always goes sideways, Star Trek to Borg. I want to go the other angle. I wanted to go in the angle of this particular AI, once it becomes sentient, it immediately becomes enlightened. And it's not out to hurt us, it's out to actually make a better world. But not everybody's happy with that idea. Not everybody's happy with letting it have its free reign. And I don't want to say much more past that.
Why?
Because it leads into the rest of the book. There's so much more to go with it.
Oh, okay. You mentioned Terminator and Borg things. Do you like those angles? Because personally, I love them.
I do.
The Borg,
yeah,
and
the
Species
Borg
7, 6, whatever.
Yeah.
were incredible characters.
Yeah, they are. They absolutely are. But I mean, it's. I do think stuff like that, although it's fiction, it's a manifestation of. I think there's truth in fiction.
Mm-hmm.
We as humanity these are things we're concerned about. These are things that we nightmare about, and I think they're very real. I think we're at the edge of, right now they have that, what's her name, Sophia. She has citizenship in Saudi Arabia. She's an AI. How true that is, I don't know. I mean, that's kind of, I've seen her on YouTube. I've seen her interviewed a couple of times, but we're very close to that. So this could be a real thing. This could be a concern.
I've often said that science fiction is the future predicted.
Yep.
Like it's only 20 years.
Yeah.
And
we'll look at our cell phones compared to Star Trek, the original series.
I know. I've been saying it all the time, and I just got a DVD collection. I don't know if you ever heard of a guy or a TV series called Max Headroom.
Yes, absolutely.
It was a character, but it was a show. Everyone knows him from the Coke commercial. And it's like, no, it was the most brilliantly written, shot, sets, lighting, and everything about that show is now real. It was all science fiction 30 years ago, but it's all real. And when it came out, it's like, yeah, that's going to happen. That's going to happen.
Yeah.
And sure enough, it's happened. So I'm a big fan of science fiction. People dismiss it, and it's like, no, that's our future.
It is.
Terminator, that's our future. It really is. And we see it in little ways. The other thing I want to touch upon, as you mentioned, you hung out with some theology guy?
Yeah, it's kind of a long story how I got there. Thomas J. Ord is an American theologian, and I had stumbled across one of his earlier books. Must have been 2015. I did a book review on it. That's how I connected with him, and then afterwards he had asked me, he had a book being released, and he had asked if he sent me a pre-published manuscript if I'd do a book review and coincide its release with the book's release, and I said sure, and that went well. Then after that, he wanted it to be more of a dialogue than just a book. And he opened up a website, and he invited a handful of people to submit essays discussing some of those issues, which happened. That's still available online. And then he went to this final book where it's all the essays in a book. And my essay was included with it. And it's kind of interesting. And one of the things I was concerned about is his background is, I'm going to say, an American born again, which I am not. I'm more of a pluralistic background. And I remember asking him when he asked if I wanted to submit an article, I said, the audience is probably not going to take too well from my point of view. And and I take it as a compliment. What he had said was that although he doesn't agree with my position, I can support it and he respects it. And coming from a theologian, I take that as a compliment. And there it is. So that's kind of cool.
I can't do with it. Yeah. It's a very nice book, though. Is your picture here? No.
My picture's not in it.
No. I like the book. It seems three-dimensional. I want to touch it. Yeah, I'm not the guy that's into God and
no.
love. I just have issues, but
Well, we've touched upon that last time I was on the show. We kind of see things from the same point of view. Like I said,
the 1st
I'm
thing
not.
I flicked to. Anyway.
But what's interesting with that book, and this kind of segues into another issue that I recently in the last 2.5 years, I've probably done about, I'm going to say 50 book signings. And, you meet a lot of people, you have a lot of conversations. And I've seen this come up, but it's very subtle. It's not in your face. And over the Christmas holidays, I had friends over and we're sitting around talking about having that article published. And one of the comments they had said, and there was no malice in it, but one of the comments that my friends had said was, wow, finally you're legitimately published. And it kind of sat in my head thinking legitimately. And what it made me aware of was there's this perception a lot of people have for the independent author that it's a plan B as opposed to the way you want to go. And the assumption often is you've tried to get published or submitted manuscripts traditionally and been turned down or rejected, and then eventually at the end of the day you decided, I'm going to self-publish. But that's not the case, and I'm sure there are examples where that's true, but for the most part that's not the case. I know myself, I never even entertained the other option. I went self-published, and I know a lot of handful of people in the city that have done the same thing. And I think there's something to be said of that, because with the Faces of Ottawa awards that are going on right now, both in my category, Best Author Male, and in the female category, Barb Avon, are both independent authors. And that might be a sign of the change in the city.
So to review, you're not a real author unless you have something put out by a big book.
Yeah, it is. But there's a lot of people. I don't think people think it through. I just think it's a default, an assumption people have, and it's not the truth. I mean, we live in a day and age where the print and demand it's sometimes easier and better to do it yourself. You have more control.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, plus you're writing this to distribute it, and it's the only way.
Yeah.
Instead of waiting and being rejected, and it's like, yeah, but you already wrote it. It's ready to go.
Get out and go.
Go print it, done. And like you say, there was a time when you could not do this. You just physically could not do it. But now that people can, why not? And
absolutely.
The way I see it, if I'm holding a book, it's a book. It doesn't matter who made the book.
That's right. You're out there.
You're out there.
Yeah.
You're a publisher. You're both. You're the author and publisher. You can claim fame.
Yeah.
I'm a publisher too.
Absolutely.
So this is the first one, right?
Yes, the symbiote.
Why is it called a novella? What's a novella?
I recently posted on Facebook, not specifically that, but there's definitions, and I'm probably not going to remember them off the top of my head. I think 3,500 to 7,500 words is a short story. Mm-hmm. 7,500 word to 17,000 words is a novelette. Oh. 17,000 words to under 40,000 words is a novella, and then anything over 40,000 words is a novel.
Oh, so it's like
it's a technicality, yeah. And the funny thing about the symbiote, where it says the novella, it comes in at 39,954 words, so it's like 6 words short of officially being a novel.
Oh boy, you couldn't have added that?
On hindsight, I wonder, maybe I should go in and put a few more very veries in there.
How do you do this? Is this done in Microsoft Word sort of thing?
I do. I function in OpenOffice, and then I just format it into PDFs after that. Mm-hmm. There's so many other ways of doing it,
sure.
But it's a
word processor way of doing it.
Oh, absolutely.
So
yeah.
you can do a spell check, and you can count the words and check your grammar, even.
Hopefully. Well, I wouldn't rely on it, because I've had to change and make corrections that are like, no, that's not right.
No. You let it highlight what
that's right.
What you think.
It brings your attention to it.
I want that. Yeah. Keep it in. The symbiote. So there's a lot of stuff here. So you got 1, 2, 3. This is number 4.
That's number 4 in the series. Yeah.
Even though this one was the conclusion.
It was, yes.
Yeah. And so have your fans been writing back saying thank you? You dealt with character ABC.
I've had I've had one particular individual. I remember it was last year at Winterlude. I was there and I got a text from them, and it wasn't a very nice text. It was joke. It was in jest, but one of their favorite characters ends up not making it through it.
Oh, well, too bad.
Yeah, well, that's the way you wanted to know. You want a story. Here's the story, but we've got a laugh out of it. But it was all caps, and I'm not going to say what it said on live on air. But they weren't very happy with it. But all humor aside, the cool thing about that is when you get fans invested in the characters like that, it's a good sign because they're real to them. And there's another side of it too, is there's in the Refuse Chronicles, there's one character, it's an old woman that ends up being one of the biggest characters in the whole series. It didn't begin that way. She brought on a life of her own as the story was written. She became bigger and bigger, and it's cool how they developed that. And it's, although I'd love to take credit for it, you can't. They just take on this life, and it's exciting.
But how does that happen? So does this happen as you're writing
it?
It
is.
And an idea pops in your head and go,
I'm going to run with this.
I'm gonna add this to
Absolutely.
Okay.
I usually, when I write, everybody has their different ways, but I always have a rough map, I call it, in my head of what's going to happen. It's just bullet points, this all the way through. And then as you're filling in and fleshing it out, sometimes, like this is a good example, you get this idea that snaps, and it's like you might have to rechange the entire map, but it's a good idea, and you run with that. And then you end up rewriting stuff, and that's exciting because that's creativity on the spur of the moment.
Do you like these book signings? You like hanging? Like, wait a minute, is that actually your signature?
That's actually my signature. Yeah, I should have been a doctor.
It's just a bunch of scribbles. I can't see the name Michel in there, or a W, or even an M, or just a scribble.
Just scribbles.
Is that for brevity, speed?
No.
That's the
actually, if I do it slow, you can see the whole name, and I've developed over time. It's just a big slur.
So are those fun, sitting at a desk for hours at a time?
They can be.
Dealing with nobody, or
it's
sometimes...
a big mixed bag. It's a lot. I've had some events where, due to weather or you didn't get the timing out, where next to nobody shows up. I've had other ones where you're just booming. It's hit and miss. It depends on where you are. It depends on who walks in the door. What's really cool with a lot of them is the people you meet and the conversations you get in. And one of the things I've been trying to do is... I've been focusing on including smaller, more intimate events like coffee houses, where you literally sit with people and have a coffee and chit chat. Like last weekend, I was at Origin Trade
with Tanya.
Market. Yeah, I was with Tanya. And I was at the Morning Owl, and we got the chat for about 2 hours, and that was a hoot. She's incredible. And that stuff that's golden. That stuff is rich because you get to know people, you get to make contacts. You'd be surprised where it leads you, and people have dreams and ambitions, and it's just really, really cool to see that. And Ottawa has some really awesome people, I have to say.
This whole Faces thing, that's not your world. So how did you get in? Somebody must have nominated you.
That started out, I didn't even know what it was. It was towards the end of November. Somebody on Facebook messaged me and said, "You're nominated for this award in Faces." And I said, I didn't even know what it was. What's that? And I looked into it. And I didn't know a lot. I kind of went with it. I didn't think a whole lot of it. And it wasn't until Danielle Allard had posted a list of her choice nominees, included me in that choice. And it was at that point that I kind of sat up and went, oh, maybe this is a bit more serious than I thought, because let's face it, I see her as being a big name in the city.
How'd you meet her?
One of the first interviews I did on TV was on Daytime Ottawa, and she was a co-host.
Right.
And then that's where I met her originally, and then it went from there. And
gotcha.
And that's how I found out about it, and then I made the first round into the finalists, which we are now, and today's the last day of voting.
Should I vote now? I'm on the site Faces.
It's big.
Faces Magna. It's not only big; it takes like an hour to get through the whole
crazy
list. And
I'm lucky, and I'm near the top, so that's good.
Are you? I got some issues with this thing, so I won't focus on it too much. I find it interesting. Again, when I asked you who are you competing against, it's like, I don't know. It's like no one knows them. So again, it's. I don't want to poop all over it, but it's a world within a little world.
It is to a degree. I mean, it's a people's choice.
Yeah.
So
it's this little world.
Yeah.
Of hipsters that go to clubs and get their pictures taken at things. It's a bit more than that.
Yeah.
And Danielle, a musician, she's been here, not on my show, she's been here at the station a lot, plays it live at Elgin a whole bunch of times. Yeah. And she's
I saw her at Christmas for the ugly Christmas sweater jam. Yeah, that was a hoot.
Yeah, it's a great place, live in Elgin, Danielle. And I have to get her on the show because I've got a whole list of things to talk to her about.
Well, I was listening to you last Wednesday, and I think you had mentioned that the day she came in was one of the rare days you were off.
Yeah, I rarely miss a show.
That's got to suck.
And I was trying to get her for it's been years now, since she put out her Chameleon. I don't know if you saw her LP and her promotional picture. But I needed to know more about that because she had herself body painted.
Yeah, all done in green and colors.
Yeah, it was really cool. And so I've been trying. I missed the show, and sure enough, Chris White filled in, and there she was on that show. So I'll get her in at some point. So congratulations on that. I hope you win, because that will put you, it'll give you that extra thing. But there's just so many. Oh, here you are, best author, male. You're at the top of the list. It's not by alphabetical order. And
I'm gonna go with that as
here,
because it's not alphabetical. I'm usually always at the end of the list because of my name.
W.
So I'll take it for what it is.
I'll add that. On to other things here. I've got your. I have 3 websites, I think, for you. Your homepage, which is a Wix thing, but it's functional. It does everything there. And the other thing was your. I don't know if this is LinkedIn. No. Oh yeah, this is another. This is this
Goodreads.
seems to be Goodreads. Seems to be a very popular site.
Yeah, it seems to be. Yeah.
Is this a good thing for authors?
I think it is. It gets your name out there. It can. I've been focusing on people in Ottawa only, but it's clean across the planet. Like you're not restricted to anything with it, and it's good because you get to touch base with other readers as well as other authors.
Are you actively checking in every day, or
more often than not?
Because I see that people can ask you a question there.
Yeah.
And I like the first one that came across. How do you deal with writer's block? I liked your answer.
Well, it's true. I mean, I think my answer, by the way, is just I walk away and leave it for as long as it takes. I think the mistake is, and some people do this, is that's this work ethic, just buckle down and plow through it. It's a mistake, because if I know in myself, when you're doing that, you end up just pumping out dribble. It's not creative anymore. And I've come across that in a lot of stuff I've been writing. I come across a block and I'll stop and I'll walk away for a week or two, and then all of a sudden you get this idea and it's incredible, and you just run with it. I'm working on a book now called Narrow Sojourney, and I haven't written anything in about a month. It's just because I came to this block. It's a stumbly block in the storyline, and
so don't beat yourself up over it. Just walk away and kind of recharge, and something will
come to you.
And when it does, race to the computer.
That's how it pans out. It's usually 2 a.m. when that happens.
Really?
Oh, I know. It's usually the middle of the night. I just wake up, and I gotta go.
Wow. Really? You've gotten up and straight to the to
just
the
if nothing else, just jot down notes.
The notes.
And it infuriates my wife, because what are you doing? You don't have to be up this early. And I've had times where I haven't done that, and you lose it, you forget it, or you don't get that gem of what it was. And that really sucks, because you can never go back and retrieve that again.
Yeah, with me, if I even wait 5 minutes, it's like, what did I go upstairs for? It's like,
I'm not going back down and remember.
Exactly. Although that does work.
Yeah, it does.
I don't know what the science is behind that concept, but if you retrace your steps, you'll remember what you were doing. So let's just take a short little a break here to hear from our Twitter and Girls to the Front, see who's coming up on February 19th. And we'll continue talking to author, poet, publisher, printer, imagination weaver, Michel Weatherall. And I'm going to talk to you about your printing background, because I think you're still doing some stuff in that world, eh?
I am.
Yeah, we'll find out more about that. Stick around.
Follow us on Twitter at CKCU FM for up-to-date information on programming, community events, and more.
Girls to the Front, third Monday at Irene's Pub, 885 Bank Street. 3 singer-songwriters in the round, presented by CKCU and Red Leaf Music. 8 p.m. Monday, February 19th. It's Ariana Gillis, Dorissa, and host Julie Corrigan. Girls to the Front, irenespub.ca for info. Brought to you in part by CKCU 93.1 FM.
8:31. We're in the studio with Michel Weatherall. You can Google him to find out where his websites resolve or what's the word I'm looking for?
Reside,
not resolve. Broken Key Publishing. They're your friends.
That's me.
Oh, that's you.
That is,
right,
and self-publish. That's right.
I was so silly. How did you come up with that name?
It's from the picture in the cover of the first book. Just it's broken piano keys.
Really?
That's all it really is.
Where's the first book? Oh, underneath there. Oh, cool. Where'd you get that picture?
I
Or
kind
piano?
of pieced it together.
Oh, really?
Bits and pieces of. I mean, if you go in close enough, you can see the pixels in there. But
Is there a piano at all in this book?
oh yes, yes,
Really?
yeah. The main character is a master pianist,
Oh.
and the whole story begins where he's kind of jaded with music today. He doesn't like where it's going. He thinks there's got to be more. He stumbles across this old musical composition and traces its ancestor back to today to try to figure out how to perform it. And when they do, I'm not going to give a lot away. This is the opening catalyst of the whole series. But when they figure out how it's performed, they discover it wasn't a piece of music that was lost from history. It was deliberately removed from history because it opens a portal outside of our universe and lets something out. That's how everything begins. So it begins with the piano.
Oh, that's very cool. I'm hooked almost. I'm not a big reader. That's the problem. I've got your LinkedIn account here, which I don't know if you ever go in and check it or modify it. Again, I have problems with LinkedIn too. It's just a giant Rolodex of uselessness. You know, it's like somebody's been fired when you get a notification. If you're looking for a job or something. But you're are you still you're still into bindery?
I'm still into printing, yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Talk to me about that.
I
A
do that.
bindery chief. Are you a chief? Like, what is BCT?
It stands for Business Cards Tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just business cards, it's a trade printer. They deal with other printers, so we don't deal directly with the public. But I've been in printing industry for over 30 years now.
Yeah, I went right down to the bottom there.
Yeah, so the transition from printing to self-publishing, publishing and printing are two separate creatures, to be sure. But the transition between them is not a difficult one.
For you, yeah.
For me.
Yeah,
and I know with a lot of local independent authors that I've spoken to, one of the biggest challenges they've faced is actually going in the print, getting the right printer, not being overcharged, formatting covers, formatting text and all that. And I've been fortunate because it's second nature to me. Mm-hmm. That was never the challenge.
Right.
Actually, it was what triggered it was my daughter had said to me, the original book, The Symbiote, was written about 25 years ago and it was just parked. And it was about 3 years ago, my daughter had said to me, why don't you just do it? That's what you do. This is your job. This is your profession. Why don't you just take the next step? And I did, and the wisdom of children, right?
Are you allowed to tell me who you actually send these to actually get printed?
For printing, I use Gauvin. They're in Gatineau, just across the river.
Oh, okay.
And they're very good priced. I would recommend them to anybody that's looking, especially local authors. Mm-hmm. I did use Rapido in Montreal, and they were just as good. The only difference is for price is I don't have to pay for shipping from Montreal. I can pick them up here, and it's not a big cost, but if you break it down per book, you always want to drop your price, right? You always want to get that cost down. So.
Sure. Who made this decision? Little things that I know.
The flaps?
The flaps.
That's exciting. That's the flaps.
Thing,
that's the first book I actually had flaps in, and I didn't want them. Last year at a Pros in the Park event, I met my printers in person, and then they were trying to promote that and wanted me to do it, and I said no because it's just an additional cost, right? Mm-hmm. And I'm not comfortable. I never have been comfortable with the about the author section of it, and that one is the first one that has it on the flap. And it's not just the cost issue. Well, in the end, they said we'll give it to you for the same price. They wanted to get it out there, so you're not going to say no to that. But the additional challenge for me is, first of all, when you're coming up with a cover, you have to come up with 4 pieces of artwork and a spine. That can be challenging. And if you throw flaps into the mix, you have to come up with 8 pieces of artwork and a spine. So it's that much more stuff you have to dream up. Mm-hmm. So that's one of the really big reasons why I never did it before. But it's kind of cool. It catches your eye. It's different. And
it has an element of class, and it gets you to the first page quicker.
Yeah.
And you could be really bad and use it as a bookmark.
Absolutely.
That's just wrong. Do you do this whole layout too?
I do all of it.
Do they automatically put that in
I do.
there?
That's all me.
All you, eh?
Yeah. I just give them a file, and
you use a barcode generator for that?
Yeah. You can get them online for free.
But they tell you what your number... You know what your number will be?
I set my own number. It's all my own.
With ISBN people?
It's Library and Archive of Canada. You register with them, and then that's another thing a lot of local authors don't realize is that in the States you have to pay for your ISBN codes. In Canada, we don't.
Oh, really?
So long as you're registered with them, you just get them for free.
Oh.
And, why would you pay?
Why would you? And it'll end up in the States anyway, wouldn't
Yep.
it? So it's just where it's being registered.
That's right.
Oh, how much do you have to pay in the States?
Oh, I forget. It's based on one title, 5, or one number, 5 numbers, 10 numbers. It gets expensive. It's
But you have your ISBN number.
yeah, in there.
How did it get generated?
When you go there, you put it. You go to
In
the
on the
website, and then
Canada?
it gives you your number.
At ISBN or Canada?
Well, it's Canada's ISBN.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they generate. You have a publisher code, which is the first. I forget how many numbers, and then each title has its own unique
Right.
one. And also, when you go into the ebooks, would have their own ISBN number as well as the print editions because they're different.
Cool. And you have no cover in here, so you don't have to worry about accurate color reproduction. Or do you? Are you happy with that reproduction of color?
I am happy with that. That actually is pretty cool. That is a place on our way out to Capshaw near Gaspé, and it's on the St. Lawrence. And what's really cool is when the tide's up, you can't see any of the characters in it. When the tide goes out, you can see them, all these characters meandering out into the water.
And those are old pier markers that someone's
pier markers.
carved.
There's some of them are stone.
That's cool.
Marcel Gagnon, I think, is the artist's name off the top of my head. He's in the credits. I had to get permission from them to use it, and it's really cool.
Is that your picture? You took that?
I took that picture. Yeah.
Is that Stormfront or
No, the sky is not, and it does tie into the storyline.
Okay.
The sky is it's photoshopped in.
Cool. But you designed that.
I designed that. Yeah.
And the swine.
And the spine
and
and
the
the
back.
back cover. Yeah. And the inside
then
flaps.
Inside. Do you have to feed them Photoshop documents or just high resolution TIFFs to the
The
printing
printers,
yeah.
I give them two. In the end result, I give them 2 PDFs, one for the cover, one for the
Art.
text.
Oh,
That's
text.
it.
Right. Okay. Sounds cool. What was the name of the place in Gatineau again?
Gauvin.
Gauvin.
It's on my website. It's GAUVIN, I believe.
Okay.
And I'm happy with them. Very happy with them.
Are you still a bookkeeper?
I am. My wife owns and operates a catering company.
Oh, how's that work?
It's busy.
Really?
Yeah, she primarily does the catering for Canada North, the high-tech sector. So it's lunch.
So lunches and trays of stuff?
Lunch and corporate catering.
Cool.
I have my fingers in all the pies.
And you help her because you've given yourself the label of assistant.
Yeah, absolutely.
Not just the bookkeeper here. You were a press operator at the Ottawa Citizen.
Yep.
Big presses, real
No,
offset.
not the web. It was an in-house plant.
Oh.
We did their own printing.
Boring.
It can be.
I thought you were, right, South Bank Print and Copy. Oh, no. Press operator, Ottawa Citizen.
Yeah.
You weren't running the big...
No, not the webs.
What else did they have there?
They had their own in-house print shop. They printed their own
Like on demand?
stuff.
Laser?
No, it was actual presses, 4-color presses, just not webs.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I did that there, and
I thought they only had the big giant...
no, you would think so, though, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, they
Are
don't.
they still there, by the way?
I don't know. I heard recently that was the smaller, like Canada Courier, all those went
Away.
closed them now,
the
and that was a
Citizen
mistake in
still-
itself. The Citizen is, I believe it's still going.
actually prints or
I think
actual
so.
paper in that actual building?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I believe so. I haven't been there for a long time,
Yeah.
and that's a tragic with those closures is those are community papers. That's how I don't, contrary to what a lot of people say and believe, I don't believe for a second print is dead. Print is changing. And I mean, even, to go back to the publishing of the books, a lot of people think ebooks are the way to go. And I admit I don't do a lot of marketing or put a lot of energy into my ebooks. Ebooks constitute under 3% of all my sales. So most people want a book. They want to hold it. It's textile. You can smell it. It's alive and well, I think.
I can't agree with you more. Again, certain segments of society tell people what.
Yep.
And then people
It's
who are being
artificial.
told, they just assume, I'm being told this, it must be true. And it's like, no.
Yeah.
Vinyl's not dead.
No, absolutely not.
Books are not dead. And like you, I'm not a big book reader, but I must have my books.
Yeah.
I tend not to read on a computer a whole lot.
Yeah.
and I like to read magazines. I even had a Reader's Digest kicking around the other day, and I had nothing to read, and it's like, I need something. So I flattened out the Reader's Digest.
I think we're seeing a turn of things, because even with, when, like I said earlier, when I was at the Ugly Christmas Sweater Jam that Danielle Allard ran, I met and listened to, what's her name, Sarah Shriver, I think. Really, really good. And I got a hold of her, and I got her a CD. Well, I didn't get her CD. I said I wanted it on vinyl, and she says, "Well, I have it, but I have to make it and just mail it to you." I said, "Good, cool, sign it too," because there's the sound quality is so much better in vinyl than it is any other format. You don't agree?
Technically, no. Technically, it's impossible. If I can hear a pop or a crack on a piece of vinyl, no matter how good your turntable, your stylus, your needle, or the record condition is, it's a destructive process. It's a piece of steel running through a groove of plastic, and even though everything's balanced and very, you're still friction, wear, and there's always pops and hisses. Now, in the early days, don't get me wrong, in the early days of CDs, the sample rate wasn't as good as it is today. So vinyl had this depth. I'm of the impression that why we say these things is that because we don't do active listening. Yeah. And that's what I'm trying to get back into is I've just renovated my living room. I'm bringing my turntable back, and I'm going to put on the piece of vinyl and dedicate that 20 minutes to listening.
Yeah. Oh, okay. I was going to ask you what you meant by active listening. I know exactly what you mean. I was going to say with vinyl, it's nostalgic as well as, but when I had a turntable, which I lost my needle, and I ended up getting a new one recently. And the first time we brought it out, I set it up in the library with my daughter, and we started putting albums on, and literally with blankets on the ground, laid and just spent the whole afternoon just enveloped by it. And that was really, really cool, because it was part of the ambiance of it. It's part of it's an experience. That's what it is.
You while you're listening, you'd be looking at the artwork.
Exactly.
You'd be reading the lyrics. You'd be memorizing.
And that's something that's lost today. You buy a CD, sure, there's a little book in it, but I mean, you get an album. It's an album. There's a jacket. There's a
I can't read the credits sometimes on this stuff, and there's no lyrics to these things anymore. So, but again, vinyl did decline. Did it die? Not if you were a vinyl guy, it didn't die. And books, did they die? Not if you're a book guy.
No, absolutely not.
And you took it that step further by saying, who needs the publisher? I'll self-publisher, and it works. Are you able to make a living off this?
Not yet.
Hobby?
This is let's say it's a hobby.
An advanced hobby.
It's an advanced hobby. I look at it like this. I firmly believe in everything that the moment something becomes an industry, the moment something becomes about money, at best it becomes compromised, at worst it becomes corrupted. Especially when you get into the realm of anything creative, whether it's music, writing, whatever. I'm not driven to write for monetary gain. I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm not doing this to lose money. I won't do it that way, but that's not my driving force. If it takes off and becomes huge, awesome. If it doesn't, just as awesome.
Sounds good. You're working on another one,
I am.
Said?
Yep.
Any connection? Different genre?
It exists in the same universe, but it's not part of the series. It's actually part of a new series. It's the book is going to be called Naro's Sojourney. It's set in 1850, and it follows a Maori chieftain or warrior, nautical adventures in the Pacific. And I always liked the idea of Edgar Allan Poe had a novella called The Narrative of Gordon Arthur Pym of Nantucket. There's a mouthful. He never finished it because he died before he died when he was in the middle of writing the story. But it's about this character, and he's sailing all these exotic islands and odd things he's coming across. And I really liked that flair, and that's what I wanted to aim at with Naro's Sojourney.
I was going to ask what was the seed for that, but you just told me.
That's it, yeah.
Now, do you sail? Do you have a boat?
I don't know. Neither nor.
How are you going to write?
Well,
come on.
How am I going to write this is because it deals with the cultures of the Maori in the Pacific, I had, before I started, gotten a hold of the Embassy of New Zealand and wanted to, ask them, do you have any contacts, and they had put me through to a guy called, I'm trying to remember his name, Dr. Wango Ritiri. And in their words, he was the go-to guy for all things Maori. And I had met him downtown for coffee, him and his wife. Really interesting individual. Really what I wanted him on board was as almost like a cultural advisor. I want to make sure it's fiction. It's totally fiction. But I wanted to make sure the cultural aspects of these people were bang on. And he agreed to be on board and double check things as it goes forward. And that's really exciting. And some of the stories he came up with were just, they're going to make it in one way or the other. It's incredible.
Did you meet him for coffee in New Zealand?
No.
Oh.
No.
He came here.
Well, he said that he built one of their ships before, and I could go on it and see it, and I was all excited. Then he says, yeah, it's in New Zealand. We can go do that. We can, can't we?
Well,
we can. Sure, why not?
No?
Let's run with that.
Go for it. So that would be, let me see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5? Would that be their fifth
That would be a fifth book, yeah. Well, I have a smaller one, but it's poetry.
I think I have that, too,
Yeah,
by the
you
way.
may. I brought some before.
I think so. A Dark Corner of Your Soul. Is this not for everybody?
It's not Sunshine and Lollipops, no.
Oh, where does this come from?
Most of those poems were written during a really, really dark time.
Mm-hmm.
And, well, that's the name of the title of the book, as well as the artwork. And the artwork on the cover is mine as well.
And it's dated?
It's dated, yeah. It goes back about 20 years.
And again, was this your first project? Did you put this out before?
No.
The Symbiote.
The Symbiote was the first
Volume 1 was the first one.
That one came out with Necropolis, the third book.
You must have been thrilled when these came in the box in the mail, right? Even though
you
have a world of that. It's
Yeah.
cool to pull out the first one and feel it, touch it, look at it. Are you happy with it generally?
I am. I mean, the Symbiote's in its fifth printing right now. Making tweaks all the time. Most of them are minor things. There's not going to be a sixth. What I'm going to do with the next incarnation of it is the first two books are going to be in one volume. Because what I want to do is, instead of having a 4-book series, I want to go back to a 3-book, like an actual physical trilogy again. So it's going to have a subtitle of The Symbiote, Not All Truths Will Set You Free. It'll include The Hunt, and then the second one will be Necropolis, and the third and final will be The Refuge Chronicles.
So here's a question. Now that I have 3 of them here, could you just, let's take this a step further. Could you make a really thick book and save costs?
It probably wouldn't save cost.
You would not?
It probably wouldn't, because it becomes difficult finding a good price point. With the Dark Corner of My Soul, because it's such a thin book, the small one, it was available for ebook only for a long time, because I had a hard time finding a way of producing it with keeping the price low enough, because nobody's going to spend like $15, $20 on a 30-page book. It's not going to happen. And there's another. I've had a discussion when I was at Origin Trade last weekend with a couple of other local authors. I believe for the indie author, there's a price ceiling of about $20, $19.99 a book. You can go past that, but I think you're kind of playing with fire, because I was at an event last summer where these two older gentlemen had their books basically the same size as mine for sale for $45 and $55. And you take a step back and look at chapters. You can get big name. You can get a Stephen King hardcover book for that price. You can't break that ceiling. You really can't. It won't sell.
Right. I like that'd be a thick book.
That'd be a thick book.
Yeah, I like this thick. This is a good thickness. But then you got to worry about binding issues, and will it hold together? Yeah,
the bigger you get, it becomes it changes how it's physically structured.
Right. Ever thought of is hard copy a way or hardcover a way to go?
There's a possibility. The cost is higher, but I mean that's really maybe it's a confidence issue. It's an issue of wondering, is somebody going to buy that? Am I a big deal or am I not a big deal? You don't really know.
Post the question on your page there. What was that?
Would people buy hardcover copies?
Would they? I don't know.
I don't know.
What is the attraction between a hardcover and softcover? Because I'm guilty of it. I renovated my living room. I had a rule. Only hardcovers are going back into the bookshelves in our brand new living room, and I'm going to be purging my softcovers. Big time.
I think human nature, we are collectors. And this goes back to the ebook thing, why physical books are doing well in ebook. I mean, ebooks they're here to stay for sure.
Sure.
But I think it's about, I have a library at my house. We're talking about books and hardcovers and that. I can't put ebooks on my shelf as files and say, look at this. It's almost a statement of ego. Look how much stuff I've read, or look what I've read, or however it manifests itself. Books do that. Hardcovers do it even more so because they're hardcovers, right? But with an ebook, you can't collect them and show them off. And I think there's an element in human nature that wants to do that.
Yeah. I just think we like them, so we keep them.
Yeah.
But I'm kind of worried, like, most people, I have tons of old stuff, and no one wants old books. You can't give them away. So they say, well, just throw it in your recycle bin. It's like, I can throw a soft cover book into my recycle bin, but I can't throw an Encyclopedia Britannica from 50 years ago into the recycle bin. It's hardcover. I don't know what to do with it. Anyway, that's just me. I gotta deal with it. So you're working on the 4th. This is not considered a book. This is just something.
No, it's an essay I have in somebody else's book.
How big is that?
The essay?
Yeah. How many words?
The final essay is 1,000 words, and it had to be that.
Oh.
Originally, the essay I had written was 2,500, and then their editor wasn't having it, and I cut it down to about 1,250, and it was a big sob story. I can't cut it anymore. That's half the volume, and she still wasn't having it.
Really?
And the end result is exactly 1,000 words. So it's very truncated from what it originally was.
What's it about? For 1,000 words, that's not really an essay. That's a statement.
It almost is.
And what are you saying?
My angle is I come from theologically, I come from a pluralistic point of view, and I address the issue of a divine message. And I'm going to say divine because I don't like using the word God, because God has a lot of baggage attached to it. It can mean different things to different people. The message to all humanity has to be consistent, because if it's not, God would be a bigot. Because if one religion or one specific place in the world was the one true religion or the one right place, then that means it's favoritism. It's them and nobody else. That's a racist statement. That's a bigot. And I can't believe a God that is supposed to be love itself is capable of being guilty of bigotry. So it has to be all people. And I approach it from that point of view, and not everybody agrees, but it's meant for discussion.
Yeah, I'd discuss that, because good old people down south is like, God bless us and us only. It's
that's not hate. That's hatred. That's not love.
It's just crazy stuff as well. Where are you going to be appearing next? Got any book signings?
I have a bunch of stuff coming up. On the, let me see, February the 6th, I will be back on CKCU with Tanya Price on Friends with Benefits. On the 11th, I will be at it's the Goddess of Love Valentine's Psychic and Craft Fair. That is such a mouthful.
It is. Goddess of Love
Valentine's Psychic
Fair
and Craft Fair.
Oh my! I'm like,
I know
the craft part there.
And I'll be there selling my books and promoting it as well.
That's a weird fit.
Well, you know what? It
doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. I got roped into doing the Yule one a couple years ago. It started out as a Halloween one. It got canceled, so I ended up getting roped into the Christmas one. And then I showed up, and I was thinking that the first time I did it, oh wow, I don't know what I get myself into, and I almost cleared out everything I brought with me. So I was happily surprised. But
wow,
who would have thunk, right?
Where's that? The February 11th?
That's on. That's the Bronson Center, 211 Bronson.
Yep. What else is up?
After that, on the 17th, I am at Chapters in Canada, doing a book signing, and then on the 24th, I am at Coles in Billingsbridge doing another book signing.
Chapters in Canada.
That's in the Centrium Center.
I have yet to go there.
That's my end of the woods.
I was going to say, that's your world, right?
Yeah, they're really good.
Do you like it out there?
I do.
Really?
I do.
We make fun of Canada all the time.
A lot of people make fun of Canada. We live in a dome.
Yeah.
Nothing sticks to us. Nothing touches us.
It's like, I'm surprised you're here, because downtown, the downtown area, it's scary. 27th, where are you?
Coles, Billingsbridge.
Coles still around?
Yeah.
I went looking for a Coles one day. I couldn't find it.
There's a few of them. Well, I think, if I'm not mistaken, they're all going to be rebranded as Indigo or Cole. I forget the title. Coles is going to be some...
Yeah.
It's not going away. It's just they're changing the name. And, that's what it is. But I have to say, for those two specific locations, Canada, Chapters in Canada and Coles and Billingsbridge, as far as their support for local authors go, they're really on the ball. They're good with it, and they go above and beyond. So if anybody's interested, knock on their doors, because...
Do you ever go to libraries and...
I haven't yet.
And read sections? Well, I don't know. It seems that when they have authors at libraries, they read a section.
Yeah.
Or they...
I've been looking at libraries. It's just been so crazy busy lately. It is one thing I want to look at. As far as doing readings go, I don't do readings.
Okay.
I just don't. Not poetry,
not even
anything.
The poetry?
Not even poetry,
How
no.
come?
You know, it's
What
funny
is it?
thing. I don't have a problem on radio or TV, but, and I'll give you a little insight into myself, is when I was younger, very, very young, preschool, I spoke French only and no English. And then I'm almost reversed right now, where although I understand more than I can speak, I've lost almost all my French. And, you know, it's an example of you don't use it, you lose it, right? When I was younger, I lived in Germany. My dad was in the military, and I think I was probably in grade 5 or grade 6. I went to about 2 years of remedial for speech impediments because of the 3 languages. And, you know, I think I did well, but it's still one of those things that I'm not comfortable with because I trip up on it. But in dialogue, I think it's smoother. But when it comes to reading out loud, it's whether I can or can't, it's debatable. It's I'm not comfortable doing it.
Well, just for the record, I tend not to have authors here.
Yes.
I think I mentioned this last time,
Yeah.
is that a lot of authors can write brilliant things, but they can't talk sometimes. And you're one of the unusual ones because you're very animated, you're very articulate, there's no dead moments, lots of things to talk about. So I'm surprised that's still this little side issue.
Yeah, maybe it's something I should address.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know how you go about. Like, it was more about, how do you entice somebody to pick up version 1 or pick up the first part of this story by reading a segment. Like, what segment would you read?
You know what? I thought that came up in conversation with a friend of mine, and I don't know. It's really hard because you want enough to give a trailer almost, but not too much.
Right.
And if raw off the top of my head, I look at the first book, the whole first chapter would be that trailer. And I'm thinking, you can't read a whole chapter. It's way too much. But
you can condense it.
Oh, yeah, you can. Well, I mean, the opening line in the whole opening line, the whole book is I just finished smashing my grand piano to pieces. And it starts from there. And that could be a trailer in itself, right? Why?
Yeah.
What's going on?
Why?
What brought you to this point?
Yeah, it could be a pre-book.
Yeah.
And then there'll be 5. We gotta go. Run out of time. Boy, an hour just flies by, and I was worried that we wouldn't have enough to talk about. I want to thank you very much for coming in, Michel. Again, I keep thinking it's Michael, but it is Michel.
It is.
Michel Weatherall. You just Google him. You can find his page, his website, and you can check him out. February 6th, he'll be here in the studio with Tanya Price, Friends with Benefits. February 11th at the Bronson Center, 17th at Chapters in Canada, and Coles at Billings Bridge. Good luck. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
We'll talk a little later. It's 9 o'clock. Time now for the BBC News. Stick around and I shall return after that. Well, it's 9:28. Time for me to get out of here. And hope you have a good weekend. Don't forget the Carleton Cup happening this Saturday. Check it out, carletoncup.com. It's all for a good cause where you get to skate and run and drink and hang out with some really cool people. carletoncup.com happening this Saturday, assuming the canal is still frozen. Also, thanks to author, poet, publisher, and imagination weaver Michel Weatherall. You can check him out. He'll be on Tanya's show next Tuesday. And February 11th at some sort of Goddess Love Valentine's Psychic Fair at the Bronson Center. On the 17th at Chapters in Canada, and on the 27th at Coles at Billings Bridge. Hope you enjoyed the show today, and thanks to you, the listener, for taking the time out of your busy day to listen to me. Stay tuned for literary news coming up next with Hans. I will be back next week. Until then, have a good day, have a good week. Bye for now.